playing, aren't we?
I think we fell into this, haven't we now?
Yeah. You are recording, aren't you?
It is recording.
I'm checking that you're recording.
Yeah. This is the best way.
This.
Yeah, then I just started recording because I was like, okay, so you guys.
I mean, we can hash this up and so on. I mean, I prefer just to, once it's raw,
keep
put
going.
it out there.
Do you want to do an intro now? No, you know, but it was recorded.
You can do the intro at the end.
We can do an intro. Yeah. By the way, we can leave this sound in. I'll just introduce that Tenders behind the mic. He's also flown in as part of Luke's team. Luke, thank you very much, first of all, for coming in and speaking to my students at Jebel Ali School. I know you've been around a few schools in your few days here. As I said yesterday when I met you, my podcast is called Better Players, Better People. It's aimed really primarily at parents, but I find a lot of teenagers and students are tuning in as well. And it's just an opportunity to sit down with what's primarily been sports coaches and teachers in Dubai and discuss issues around sport and try to convey my message that sport is a vehicle to create the person. So what I want to get to shortly is, what lessons did you take from your football career which have supported you in your career since then? And then we can discuss that. Just to go back to the intro and what you spoke about there's a few things for me. The first thing is, we say this all the time to our students and teachers, that people won't care what you know until they know how much you care. So that's the first thing, and I think I can straight away sense that from you. You fully are passionate and care about the subject and being a force of kindness and passion and love in the world, and I think that it just oozes out here. And I think that's obviously something you've honed and you've developed over the years, but I think largely is to do with the person you are, and your role models and your upbringing. And then the second thing I want to touch on, I'm trying to recall what you mentioned there with the chat at the start. It leaves me now, and we'll probably have to edit this bit out. I'm trying to think what it was, because you were
These are the best bits, mate.
There was something else that I was thinking of, and I was like, I'll tell you what it is. It's this idea of episodic memories. So if I was to ask, the real common one is, where was you when 9/11 happened? Everyone knows, because there was that sense of emotion. And when you attach a memory to emotion, it's just so vivid. And I think to go and try and offer an explanation why the guy recognised you on the palm after 6 years going for a jog. By the way, he must have been, he's done well to recognise you there. It's probably the sense of emotion that you left him with when you met him. And hopefully the students that you spoke to, I certainly know from our school, you've left them with a sense of emotion. I'd say it was excitement. It was probably inspiration, if that is an emotion. Which is a word used an awful lot in education. Yeah. We want to be inspiring teachers, we want to put someone on stage who's inspiring, but the way you delivered your message truly was inspiring. So, to go full circle to my first question, can you explain to the viewers what lessons you took from your successful, maybe brief football career? What lessons, what did that elite sporting environment give you, which has helped shape the person you are now to do the job you do?
Yeah, so firstly, thank you very much for the wonderful comments. I really appreciate that feedback coming from yourself, that he's doing and has done so much. To have the courage to move to another country and do what you've done, I think it takes a lot of bravery to create that life for your family. So I really admire that in you. And I'm grateful that you brought me into your school. And when you're looking at my career in sport, there's so many takeouts from there that I probably didn't realise until later on in life. One of the key ones was overcoming adversity, because as a 15-year-old, 16, 17, 18-year-old, I was always in the team playing for England. So I never, ever, rarely didn't play. So you get used to that success. And then when one day you're told you're not playing, or one day you're told your contract's not getting extended, you don't know what to do. So I didn't face much adversity, although I didn't grow up in a family that was affluent and money wasn't everywhere. I certainly didn't grow up with adversity in my life. And I was a young superstar footballer coming through that every single club in the country wanted to sign. Probably a few missing, but to the point Sir Alex Ferguson called my house on a Saturday afternoon asking why I wouldn't join Manchester United at the age of 14. So I was sought after And I was never kind of, no, I don't think anybody would ever describe me as a big head or a show. I never was, even when I was 15, 16, playing for England and on television, and everybody's talking about you. I was very kind of play it down, because I grew up in a family where I remember playing for England when I was 15, and I was about to walk out the door after playing at Wembley Stadium for England, and I had my England tracksuit on. I remember my dad saying, "Where are you going, son?" I said, "I'm going to the local snooker hall." He said, "What, wearing your tracksuit?" I said, "Yeah." He went, "Son," he said, "if I was you, I'd take that off." And I said, "Why?" He said, "People think you're showing off." He said, "You don't want to come across like that." I went, "Okay, cool." So I realised, I took the tracksuit off. But what then happens is you play everything down. So really I want to tell everybody how wonderful it was, but then a part of you holds back because you're a bit, I don't want to be seen as bragging, which was culturally a way in the UK, especially that you get brought up. But I've realised it's okay to be proud of yourself. It's the way that you portray and talk about it. So my greatest lessons through my football was overcoming adversity, because when it hit me, I had no idea and I didn't respond well. So a student asked me in the audience today, what was it like as a football player? And what did you learn from it? And I said, I learned that I didn't know how to overcome adversity until it hit me, and I didn't respond well. So I sulked, I complained through anger, really. Like I thought I should be somewhere and I wasn't somewhere. I was so ambitious and believed that I was good enough because I've had all this success. And all of a sudden they're saying, by the way, you're not playing today because of such and such reason. Difficult how to overcome that. And then when you get told you're not getting a new contract, it's difficult to face rejection. We've never faced it at like 18, 19. And I didn't respond well enough. And then gradually when I realised I've got to respond better, I gradually did and learnt that. Because then in my mid-20s, when you're working on a building site and you're working in an animal food factory, you've got a lot of adversity on top of you there, because all the money you ever earned has gone. Lots of the friends that you had, different lifestyles. All the footballers that have gone on to become England superstars, you're not friends with anymore because lives are different. And you're moving bricks from one corner of a building to another thinking, what has happened to me? And everybody wants to ask you, what has happened to you? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, well, 1 minute you're there and now you're here. And it was like, gosh, it was tough. And I can't, it's difficult to explain that. I definitely in moments of my life was thinking, oh, this is too much, this. And I used to work on the building site, and what I used to do in the morning, I used to turn my phone off and leave it in my drawer at home, because I just didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want people messaging me and ringing me while I was lifting bricks. There's nothing wrong with the job, it just weren't for me. And all of a sudden I'm playing for England with Michael Owen, all these superstars, and then I'm on a building site for minimum wage. I couldn't bear talking about it to people. It was too painful. It was like having a girlfriend when you're young, or a boyfriend. You separate and then she's with someone else. You don't want to see it. So I couldn't bear being around it. And I kept getting constant reminders from people asking me questions about it. So I kind of was shutting myself off. And I realised that actually the adversity I'd been through was nothing. And I'm alive, I'm healthy, I'm still a good person. Great people have made wonderful sacrifices for me to even have a chance to pursue a dream in football. I'm not settling for this life that I'm going down this track of drinking too much alcohol, self-sabotage, just not enjoying life really, not bothered. Honestly wasn't bothered really deep down if I was here or not. I didn't know that then, but I just didn't want, it was just tough. And I just started to think to myself, well, I can still do something. I can still do something. And I found something and just had the same mentality as sport, and I went after that. And I realised that goals and dreams was like a magnet. They pull you in the right direction. But because I didn't have any goals and dreams after football, I could get pulled left or right and backwards, live in the past too much, constantly talking about I was good and this was, I got a big contract and Mr. Kenny Dalglish was signed, and you start reminiscing, but you're living in it, and when you're living in it, you can't go anywhere else. It suffocates you. So I would only talk about the past if somebody asked me a question because they was interested, but I would never talk about it in a way of, oh my gosh, I wish I was, because lots of sports people unfortunately live there, and I'm like, if I'm talking about 20 years ago that much, I'm not doing enough today. So adversity and overcoming that was powerful. How to be with people. I learned how not to be with people, and I learned how to be with people. So something that I learned off Roy Hodgson, who went on to be England manager and had a great career. Every morning before training, he would shake everybody's hand. And if he missed you out, you knew that you weren't performing. He'd walk up, you go, "Hey James, good morning." Everybody. And I thought, what a great attribute. So I've taken that into my life. Wherever I go, I shake everybody's hand and say, "What's your name?" And just because I learned that from him, and it made me feel really special when he wanted to say hello to me, even though it was just everybody. I loved it. So how to be and not to be with people. Great leaders and not so great leaders. What was great about what did that guy do that made me like want to do everything that I could to impress him and win and perform? What did he say? What did he do? And what did the other person do that made me not want to be there? And then try and not do what he did and do what he did. And I think I've learned so much from them good and not so good managers and leaders and players too.
I think it's quite interesting to have that awareness though. I think for anyone in any walk of life, people will have different managers and different leaders throughout their career, whatever it may be. It's quite refreshing to hear you say you can learn from both.
Yeah.
And that's certainly something I've tried to approach. I'll have good head teachers and I'll have indifferent head teachers. So I think that's quite a strong message, you know, to students going into the workplace or someone playing in a football team, sports team. You'll have managers and leaders that you'll probably enjoy playing with and working under more than others, but learn from both would be probably the message there. You've got quite a unique lens. I think not that unique. There's unfortunately going to be a lot of young men and women who go through the academy process and then unfortunately for one reason or another might not have a prolonged career in football. Are they people that you've spoke to in your talks in the UK and abroad? And if so, how do you approach conversations with them? What's kind of the go-to message with people who've went through the same that you've went through?
So, firstly, when I speak to players that are actually in it with the same dreams that I had, the last thing you want to hear and the last thing you will listen to, I believe, as a young footballer or sportsman is have a backup plan.
Yeah.
Because no matter how much somebody says have a backup plan, you don't believe you'll need the backup plan. And if you've got a backup plan, it's like, I don't really believe the real plan will work.
Yeah.
So I would never say to anyone, have a backup plan. I would always say, I believe having multiple interests can support you being the best football player or basketball player, rugby player you can be. Because having multiple interests, it gives you a release to de-stress, to release some steam in different arenas. Where if you're only doing one thing and that's not going very well, you're in trouble because it becomes your personal identity. So when my football was over, I didn't know who I was because I was Luke the footballer. And I've realised that no matter what I do now, and you know, I'm privileged to be sat here in Dubai on your podcast, it's not my identity. I'm Luke Staton, a good person that wants to give to the world, and this is one of my vehicles to do so. One day this vehicle might have to be a different one, or I might change it, but never rely on the title to have self-validation, because I think that's a dangerous world. So the young footballers I talk with, I'm like, yes, you're a footballer. Could you be a great person as well? Because the great person will be a better footballer, as you talk about. That's what your podcast is. And my message to them is, have interests that inspire you, have interests that complement what you're already doing, not interests that are going against what you're trying to get to. And I think that helps you become a better football player. A good friend of mine, Hasnia Joffrey, he's in Singapore at the moment, head of the FA. His son is at Manchester United, Sonny Joffrey. And Sonny Joffrey right now is on the brink of playing for Manchester United's first team. He's also doing a degree at university, and he's the most rounded human being I've ever come across. And it's like, I think back 25 years ago when I was him, I would not have considered doing a university degree because I'd just focused on my football. Yeah. So that lad, he's at Manchester United. He's on loan at the moment, and he's doing a degree at the same time. And it's like phenomenal. It's not affecting his football in a negative arena. I think it's helping his football because he's got time to decompress and put his energy into something else for a break from the football. So my message is have multiple interests that will complement your main one. It's not like saying I'm going to become a cyclist while I'm trying to be a footballer, you know. And you look at people like Curtis Woodhouse that went from being a professional footballer to becoming an elite world. He became, I think, Commonwealth middleweight champion. I can't remember exactly what belt, but he became a world champion or a champion. But he stopped football to go into that. But boxing was obviously an interest while he did the football. So the kids and guys that don't make it, that have to find something else, that is tough if they've never thought about anything else because you're just left a bit empty. So the advice that I would give and share with them would be, just think about doing something that you'd really love to do. What would it be? And that's the first place to start. What would you do with your time? What would you enjoy? And what would you enjoy that much that you could become really good? It's like the book Ikigai, a Japanese philosophy for living a fulfilling life. What could you be great at? What do you love? The world needs it and you can commercialise it. And if you think about them, I feel I've got that. Because I believe I can be good at it because I love it enough to practice. I believe the world needs it. I believe I can commercialise it because I've managed to make a lifestyle out of it. And I want to pursue that as much as I can. But I would be cool with doing something else if I had to now.
I actually thought about that book actually on the way home yesterday from work. I was thinking actually that the message was quite similar.
Yeah.
I think that's a really practical tip for students to hear. And obviously I think that's one that could be echoed in schools.
Yeah.
We see students coming through school, they get to 16 and they've got that decision whether they stay on and do A-levels, or is it a case, and I've had this before in the past, and unfortunately for people here, it's relocate. We've had students move back to the UK and chase the dream of football at 16, which can be late, could be, you know, perceived as late. But as I agree with you, by the way, if a boy or a girl has got that dream, they don't want to hear backup plan. I'd fully agree with that. Just the reaction that you can see from the face when you start to discuss other options. But I think that's a really practical tool for kids, young kids, older kids to try and utilise. What about parents then?
Yeah.
What about parents? What's your approach or experience being with parents who've got that potential prodigy? What advice, what practical tools could we give to them to support that journey through potentially reaching it to play elite sports, but more importantly, being that better person that we think about? So
every parent, the most precious people in the world are their children, and rightly so. So you want the best for them. So when you've got the intention of wanting the best for your child, I think it's important to have that conversation of how can I create the best opportunities for my child without becoming a dictator or a coach for them, or I'm not their football coach, I'm their father or mother or foster carer, first and foremost. Because the challenge comes that you're often taking your child into a sport where the coach probably knows a lot more than you, and if they don't know more than you, you're still trusting your child with that coach, and that coach is devoting their time, whether it's voluntary or they're a professional, to improving your child in that sport. And I see too much where the parent thinks what they're saying to the child should override what the coach is saying, but the coach might be working on something with that child that the parent has no idea of, and the parent's looking at the now where the coach is looking at tomorrow. So Manchester United, for example, they focus on individual progression, not necessarily team winning, because they're looking for the next player that might break through, and at the sacrifice of winning a match, where grassroots level, it's all about winning the game, unfortunately, a lot of the time, not always, but a lot of the time. Yeah, and you know, like a child, for example, might be on the football pitch and the parent's shouting, go and get involved in the game. But the coach has told the child to stay out of the game because they'll receive the ball in space. So the parent confuses the child with information. The child then loves their parents or foster carers, so listens to them, doesn't listen to the coach. It becomes a dysfunctional relationship. I see it as the same as a child in a school where you've got the child, the parent, the teacher. Same in sports, you've got the child, the parent, the coach. You've got to work as a triangle, and the child's in the middle to support them and develop them the best way that you can to be a great human being that may have a chance to go and do something great in sport. Now, if the parent is conflicting what the coach is saying, the kid gets so confused. Often kids drop out of sport because of parental pressure. Now, my son loves football, he's 16. I'm his coach as well. On a Sunday, I run his team. So I'm now his coach on a Sunday, but on a Saturday, he plays for a different team. He could be right in front of me when I'm stood watching, and I believe I understand the game because I've been in it a lot through my life. I give him zero advice because the coach, it's his responsibility, and it's disrespectful for me to then try and tell my son what to do. And I've never shouted once, son, because it's like, no, wait till after the game, I'll ask my son what he thinks and talk about it. So I would say to any parent, be the parent, not the coach. Unless, like us, sometimes you become the coach, you then got to have that conversation.
I'm really pleased you've said that, to be fair, Luke. Unfortunately, parents out here are probably similar to the majority of parents in the UK, and they'll stand on the sideline. My approach to that is, first and foremost, what you mentioned there about the three working together with the student's best interest at heart is key.
Yeah.
And I've always made an effort to get on the front foot and get in front of parents and explain the philosophy and the approach that the staff will have. I struggle with it sometimes when I'm either reffing or coaching school games, and the parent will it'll just come out. I think it's just a natural reaction because they might be untrained on the subject, and hence the reason why I'm trying to reach out to them through forums like this. So it's a soft approach.
Yeah.
We're not an academy. We're not building footballers. We're a school. So I think it's kind of like just a quiet word at the end, but obviously qualified people like yourself who've been through the game and have the understanding of what goes on behind the scenes at academies like United. I think that's quite strong to share with parents. Parents. So if Manchester United focus on individual performance and improvement over winning in a match, why does a Sunday League team focus on winning the game over individual progression? Because kids get to that age, 13 to 16, I don't know the stats, but I can imagine the percentage of dropout of sport is huge because there's other interests. Because the joy disappears. So the goal really with sport is to keep them in it as long as they can, to see how far they can go through enjoyment and love and energy for the sport. When it becomes too serious and they're getting shouted at by parents and coaches, the energy and desire disappears. They just quit the sport. Yeah. It's not about becoming a professional sportsman a lot of the time. It's about health. It's about connecting with people, winning, losing, working as a team. There's way more benefits in sport outside of becoming a professional sportsman that's so underestimated. I watched a kid's game recently. My son had a game walking, I bet the kid was 9. And I was confused of what the kids had to do because the coach is on one side and you've got 50, 60 parents on the other side, all shouting random stuff to a 9-year-old. Go there, pass it. The kid's like, what? I mean, it was bedlam. It's chaotic. And what's really sad is football seems to bring out some real negative behaviours in people that are underlying, but football is a vehicle. You see it adult football, don't you? How does an adult stand there and start swearing at another adult because they're supporting another team? Yeah, it's unfortunately it's the negative side to the culture of football, isn't it?
It's horrific.
It is. We've actually got ahead. I was going to ask, one of the questions was going to be, what are your thoughts on this idea of winning in youth sport?
Yeah.
And I think we've discussed that there. There was actually a quote or an interview I seen recently with Carlo Ancelotti. He said there's two types of coaches. He said there's the coach that can ruin things, and there's the coach that does nothing. And he said, I'd rather be the coach that does nothing. And I think he was talking about how he approaches attack and play. Yeah. And I've heard him say this before, and I find it super interesting that he'll organise the defence and he'll let the boys play. That's Real Madrid. Yeah. That is Real Madrid. So if that's the approach from Real Madrid, and I'm not giving licence for coaches not to do anything, but I think parents would be going in the right direction if they were to follow that type of message. Well, the key to that, James, for me is that we all play football when we're young because it's expressing yourself, it's freedom. Yeah. But then if everywhere you go and everything that you do, someone's telling you when to do it, what to do, how to do it, you become dictated to. And then all of a sudden, what if your parent's not there? You don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. And just having the freedom to enjoy yourself is a beautiful thing. And a football pitch is a great way to express yourself. And if someone's telling you what to do, when to do it, exactly,
you probably could have done something different because you was going to do that something different. And I also really believe that you can play with the tenacity to win without neglecting the individual growth and performance. So an example is the team that I run. I'm like, guys, I am not bothered about the final numbers of the game, the result. I'm not bothered about that. What I'm bothered about is the tenacity, the energy and the effort that we show to get the best score at the end of the game as individuals and as a unit. And if you put that effort in individual and as a unit, and whatever the score will be, it will be. You can't control the score, you can control the energy you put in to getting the best score. So I think you can coach people to have the desire to want to win without it becoming a negative of individual growth and performance, that you change how an individual plays to get the result. For example, if you're a team that thinks passing the football is great, but then you're losing and you just think keep booting it because you've got a big centre forward or fast centre forward, boot it, you're changing what you think's right just to get a better scoreline. So the better scoreline, you win that Saturday or Sunday, but your kids now think when we're not going well, we just revert to that. And I just don't think it works. Yeah. And unfortunately, parents get excited when they win. I would get excited when your child enjoys it because they're going to stay in it. Lots of kids win, and I was like this as a kid. If we won and I played rubbish, I weren't happy when you're young because you just want to enjoy it. So if I enjoyed it and we lost, I still enjoyed it. I wanted to win, but I wanted to play well too. And there's no way I could have played football if my dad was screaming from the side, like some kids in my team used to get screamed at by their dads to the point of tears on the pitch, shouting, swearing, carnage. And they dropped out of the game, couldn't cope with it.
I think what we're talking about here, we could probably talk about for hours.
100%.
I think there'd be many coaches who would agree with everything that we've mentioned. What I want to get to is, on the way over, I was watching some of the clips of your talks in primary schools in the UK. I want to get to the programme that you've introduced to primary schools. And just one quick point that I want to share on the video is there was student interviews at the end of some of the talks, and the kids were speaking so well about what they'd seen from your talk, and they were using words like, Luke is so kind, he was letting us ask questions whenever we want. And for me, what I took from that is you've built that connection again with the student when they've gone in, because I'm sure they'll have had many teachers during their time in school. Primary school will have different teachers coming in. I know we do out here, but you've built the connection in probably what is a short time in the school. Can you just give us a brief understanding of what the programme is and what it looks like and what you're hoping to achieve with the programme?
So I want to reach as many young people all over the world as I possibly can. And I realised very quickly that by going in and delivering an empowerment talk to the young children was great, because it would stimulate their thinking. And like the feedback that you're getting there, they're like, that was amazing, I feel great. And then it's like, what's next? So when teachers would say, what else do you do? I didn't do anything else, but when I went away and I stood and I learned and decided to put some online personal development courses together, because I've been through them and learnt loads, reading, studying, watching. So I started to build online courses for young people, and I wasn't sure how it would go until we put it out there in the UK. And the feedback from the teachers was it helped the teacher, which I didn't think of this when I created it. The teachers' feedback on the video testimonials that they sent me was it helped them understand more about the human being behind the student, because they was finding out about them as people from the age of 6, 7 up to the age of 14, 15, 16. They was realising that child has a dream to become this, or that child has a role model which is their granddad, because the granddad takes them fishing. So now that teacher knows that their granddad takes them fishing, on the Monday they can say, did you go fishing with your granddad at the weekend? So everything's about human connection. The better rapport you've got, the better relationship, the better results you'll get with people. So my philosophy has always been connect as quick as you can, and then the message is easier to share, because people don't feel like you're talking at them or telling them what to do. They feel like you're helping them and supporting them and encouraging them, but they feel like their own hero. So I don't think anybody would say, Luke's changed my life. I would like to think they'll say they changed their life and they heard a talk from me. because people have got to be their own hero, and too many coaches want to be the hero, the guy that won the medals or the coach that inspired a top performance. Yes, we're a part of the jigsaw, but that's all we are really. And I think it's about being vulnerable with young people, sharing a bit of yourself, and then opening their hearts and minds to what's possible for them through storytelling. So all my online courses are based around storytelling. No matter how old we are, we love stories. A story is a key way to create a message, to plant a seed, which attaches an experience to what they could do next. So my courses was just storytelling with questions of, so who's a role model for you then? This was mine, who's yours? My role model's Mr. Bedford because he's enthusiastic. Okay, what characteristics do you resemble of Mr. Bedford? Well, I'd like to put more effort in. So you're getting a lot of self-reflection. So I've built a year's worth of these courses for schools because they've asked, what more can you do? So I've created more. The book signing's been unbelievable. So just traveling the world, doing talks about my book and signing books for the kids. I get so personally inspired when a child says, can I get your book? Yeah. I'm like, they really want my book. And I'm like, wow. And when a child reads my book and their parent reaches out to me and says, my kid does not read, Luke, like can't get him to read a book, actually has read your book and takes it to school every day. One parent sent me a photograph of their child, Joseph, 9 years of age, sleeps with it next to him, takes it to school every day. And I'm like, I've created that. I've had a lot of support to create, but I've created that for that child to feel compelled enough to take that book to school with him. So my program now is I want to travel the world and reach millions of young people, not just from being in the room with them, but when I've gone, continue developing them in between, with the book, with the online courses. So they feel like they're working with me, even though they won't see me in person for maybe another 12 months. And I wasn't sure how it would go until we've gone back and asked a question. And the feedback has inspired me to do more of it.
It's this power of child-centered approach. It's coming from, you're basically unlocking the power of the child, aren't you? You know, you're trying to get them to attach, because they'll all know the role model, they'll all know someone they want to be as a hero, and then making those links as we go, which I think is so powerful. And I also, it's quite interesting to hear that the teachers are learning almost a teaching approach now. They can use that in other subjects, I'm sure, to tie in and wrap around other areas of the curriculum.
Well, one thing I want to share with you, because I think this is really important, that when you first start doing something, you never know how it's going to go. You got to do it long enough to see if it's worth continuing. And I went to a school in Lincolnshire, and there was a girl called Alicia that in her book, she wrote down she wanted to become a primary school teacher. So she was 14. And then I went back into that school years later. She was then in sixth form, still with the same dream to become a primary school teacher. So probably 6 to 8 years on from when I first met her, she sent me an Instagram message and said, I've just started my training to become a primary school teacher. Sent me a photograph of the workbook where she stated that dream when she was 14. And that's one of many that wrote it down, started to create what will it take to get there, started to open their mind to the possibilities and gone on to do it. And this one, I drove through Starbucks once, and this young girl, she was, it's funny how you remember people's names when it's really impacts you as well, because these stories impact me more than they will ever know. So I go through a Starbucks in COVID with my daughter Sienna, who would have been 10 at the time. As I go through the Starbucks drive-through, wind the window down, and I looked, you know when you recognise someone, I always ask them, where do I know you from? Where some people probably pretend they can't work it out. I just said to this young girl, where do I know you from? She said, you're Luke Staton, aren't you? So she recognised me, but didn't say anything. And I said, yeah, where do I know you? She said, you came to my school many years ago, 4, 5, 6 years ago. And I said, oh yeah, okay. I was like, how's things been since that? And she went, she said, you won't remember this, but you asked us what's something we'd love to accomplish in the future. And she said, I would love to go to Cambridge University and study psychology. And she said, I'm actually starting. She said, it's funny that you just, I'm going in a month to Cambridge University to study psychology. So I've got my little girl sat next to me getting a frappuccino that she wants. I'm like, listen, your dad, he knows what, because I was like, couldn't believe it. This person's listened, applied, and wants to tell me that what she wrote down 5-6 years ago is now happening. And it turned out she actually did. She went to university, she did 2 weeks, decided this isn't for me, and followed a different career. Yeah. But I thought it was wonderful that she remembered me, remembered what she stated, and she'd gone on to do it for whatever time period that was. And them moments for me are literally worth all the effort that I put in the studio, getting my words wrong, getting frustrated, thinking of new content. Just for them little bits there, it's like, this is worth it.
Do you know, I've reflected on this before, and what you're describing there is something that's happened over a period of time.
Yeah.
And your consistent approach, working with young people, you'll get moments like that, but it'll potentially come once every 10 years.
Yeah.
I think the previous school I was at was there for 10 years. I felt old leaving because the students that were graduating on, I'd seen right the way through secondary. I perceived myself to be young until that moment, and I thought, oh, geez, I'm getting quite old now. But some of the comments I'd get from them students or parents about something that might have happened 6 years prior, you know, picking them for a development football team or something like that. And you really do have to cherish those moments, because teaching and coaching and working with young people can be challenging and can be, I don't want to say draining, but it can be difficult at times. And you've just not got to lose sight of that big picture, which is developing the person. Yeah. And it's something I always say to staff I lead and parents when I meet them, is we're not here to develop footballers or swimmers or netballers or cricketers. We're here to send off someone at 18 to university who's got the tools to handle university or work life, whatever it may be. So, and that's quite difficult to sometimes grasp if you're in a school 1 or 2 years or 3 years into your teaching. It'll come back potentially in a few years' time. Yeah. Luke, thank you so much for your time.
It's a privilege, thank you.
It's a pleasure to meet you. And I look forward to hopefully meeting you again out in Dubai or the UK.
Thank you very much, mate. Love it.
Thanks, Luke. Thank you, mate.